Shalom. It's a good, whoopsie. It's a good day. It's not a good day because of all the trials and the evils and all the stuff that we're going through. It's a good day because God made it, and we're going to rejoice and be glad in it. We're going to choose to do that regardless of what's going on. And that's part of how the world's going to tell the difference between us, because there's no earthly reason for our joy. Amen? So the Torah portion is called Re'eh, or see, and it's because it begins with, see, I am setting before you today a blessing and a curse. The blessing, if you obey the commandments of Yahweh your God, which I command you today, and the curse, if you do not obey the commands of Yahweh your God, but turn aside from the way that I'm commanding you today to go after other gods that you have not known. That's Deuteronomy 11, 26, 28. We tend to think, I'll never do that. That's something that was possible for those of the ancient world. But people know better now. We're in a modern world, and we have no need for idols. But it also says, these are the statutes and rules that you shall be careful to do in the land that Yahweh your God, the God of your fathers, has given you to possess all the days that you live on the earth. You shall surely destroy all the places where the nations whom you shall dispossess served their gods. On the high mountains and on the hills and under every green tree. Hold up. Does it say to use their altars and repurpose their methods of worship to worship Yahweh? Yahweh says, you shall tear down their altars and dash in pieces their pillars and burn their ashram with fire. You shall chop down the carved images of their gods and destroy their name out of that place. You shall not worship Yahweh your God in that way. But you shall seek the place that Yahweh your God will choose out of all your tribes to put his name and make his habitation there. There you shall go. That's Deuteronomy 12, 1 through 5. Yahweh says again in 13 and 14 of the same chapter, take care that you do not offer your burnt offerings at any place that you see, but at the place that Yahweh will choose in one of your tribes, there you shall offer your burnt offerings, and there you shall do all that I'm commanding you. And yet again, when Yahweh your God cuts off before you the nations whom you go in to possess, and you dispossess them and dwell in their land, take care that you be not ensnared to follow them after they've been destroyed before you, and that you do not inquire about their gods, saying, how did these nations serve their gods? That I also may do the same. You shall not worship Yahweh your God in that way. For every abominable thing that Yahweh hates, they have done for their gods. For they even burn their sons and daughters in the fire to their gods. They did not lack commitment, did they? They didn't lack faith. They lacked righteousness. Everything that I command you, you shall be careful to do. You shall not add it or take away from it. Add to it or take away from it. We don't get to choose how we worship God. There are countless unclean ways to do so. I'm sure they're very interesting. I'm sure they're very enticing. Which pagans use to worship their gods. Today, people do that. It's not just in the far ancient past. Today, they're doing this. These are not acceptable to Yahweh. He gets to choose how we worship him. He gets to choose how we worship him. Not me. I will leave that tree alone. I think we learned our lesson. And when they, this is so context. So the ark wasn't in Jerusalem at this point. This is after David had been anointed as king, Saul had been killed. The ark was not in Jerusalem, had not been brought there. It was at a guy's house, I can't remember his name. Thank you, Obed-Edom. And they were trying to move it to Jerusalem, which is good. Okay, that started out good. And when they put the ark on an ox cart, that's a good idea. It's heavy. I don't want to, that might be heavy for me. Let's put it on an ox cart. So they did. And they started off. Does anyone remember how Yahweh said to worship him in this way? Was it with an ox cart? Did he say to haul his holy ark with an ox cart? Did he say it would be easier that way? Not the point. And when they came to the threshing floor of Nacon, Uzzah put out his hand to the ark of God and took hold of it, for the oxen stumbled. And the anger of Yahweh was kindled against Uzzah, and God struck him down there because of his error, and he died there beside the ark of God. And David was angry because Yahweh had broken out against Uzzah. And that place is called Perez Uzzah to this day. And David was afraid of Yahweh that day. And he said, how can the ark of Yahweh come to me? So David was not willing to take the ark of Yahweh into the city of David. But David took it aside to the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite. And Obed-Edom was blessed because of that. The fear of Yahweh is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is insight. David eventually moved the ark into Jerusalem the way God had commanded Moses and Israel to do it. And David and Israel were blessed for doing it the right way. See, I am sitting before you a blessing and a curse. That's how this Torah portion begins. Does he want to curse us? Does he want to break out against us? Does he want to not give us favor? No. That's why he's warning them. See, David and Israel tried it the other way that was not obedient, and Uzzah died for this. And their lack of fear of Yahweh as a congregation, and David not remembering. He never would have been put in a position to be at risk of death if the collective fear of the community and David, their leader, had remembered the fear of Yahweh. If they'd studied up, it wouldn't have happened that way. David is famous for his repentant heart, owning his mistakes and changing, not because he was always perfect. We must approach Yahweh, sovereign of hosts, with fear. This recognizes who he is. But how do we come boldly before the throne of grace that we may obtain mercy and find grace in the help in time of need? As in Hebrews 14:16. That's a question. How do we do that if we're so afraid? There's a way to fear Yahweh, sovereign of hosts, and still come boldly before his throne and yet be a human that stumbles in many ways. There is a way. I don't have time to read them today, but for anyone who's interested, the conclusion of fearing Yahweh is in 1 John chapter 4, verses 1 through 21. Shabbat shalom, fam.